Okay, in today's video, we're going to be building the rest of the window seat, which consists of making the drawer fronts. In the previous video, I hope you watched it, we built the whole entire window seat carcass and the drawer boxes. In this video here, we are making the drawer fronts, and I'm going to show you how I do that, and also going to install them. I'm also going to show you how I spray the finish, and there's a lot going on in this video that I will be talking about as I go, narrating it, so definitely stick around and make sure you watch it until the end, because I have a lot of stuff to tell you at the end of the video on things that's coming in the future to the channel. So stay tuned for that, okay? Let's get started on this build right now.
All right, first thing we do here is get our lumber dressed and ready to go. So I'm going to start off at the sliding table saw, and I'm going to do a straight line rip. This just makes it so much easier at the joiner because I'm getting a straight line real quick on the full length of the piece, and I don't have to fight with it over at the joiner and try to balance it on that 6-foot table. Instead, here I have a nice 10-foot length, and then I'm going to just cross cut them to rough lengths larger than I need. So this way, when I bring everything over to the joiner, any snipe or anything that the planer or the joiner create will be cut off later on to the final dimensions. And so for those of you wondering, what I'm doing here now is flattening one face first on a joiner. And if you're wondering what type of wood this is I'm starting off with 4/4 rough poplar, and I'm dressing it down to 3/4 of an inch. So after I get a flat face, it's a nice reference flat edge, I can flip it over and run it through the planer and bring it down to thickness. I used to use 5/4 for that, but it was too much milling involved. With the 4/4 now, there's less to take off, and the lumber is easier to dress, and it saves me a lot of time. Once I'm done bringing it down to the thickness and I let it sit overnight, I can rip it down to the width that I need and then cross cut it to my final dimensions of what each of the pieces will be for the rails and the stiles of the drawer front. You can see here the Maxima sliding table saw just makes quick and accurate, efficient work of that. Now here's something that I'm really excited about. You guys haven't seen this, but I just recently got my hands on a power feeder for my shaper. And what this does is allows me to basically route the profiles hands-free on the length of the stiles and rails of the doors and the drawer fronts. So I just feed it in there, and then the wheels take over, and it brings it through at a consistent speed, while at the same time holding pressure against the fence so that the profile doesn't have any waves or any dips in it or any ripples. Nothing that I'll have to really sand out later on. I've had that in the past where I've tried to hold the board down and against the fence and feed it through, and you know, sometimes you get a little undulation in the board and it jumps a little bit, and then you get a little tear in there or a little ripple.
Okay, so you can see I have the frame of the drawer assembled here after I ran everything through the shaper, made my profiles. I just wanted to stop and take a minute and explain something here, because this is a crucial step for making the cutting the panel to size for the center, because a lot of people will cut it and then they'll make it too big or too small, and then they'll screw it up, and there's a lot. You could do, you know, all the math you want, and you can do it the hard way, and you can measure the inside here and say, okay, I have from the inside I have 482, and I know that the depths of my grooves for the bit are 10 millimeters each, and so I have 482, and then I have to add 10 and 10, that's 20, and so I'm going to get 502, right? Well, you really don't have to actually do that, because I've found that when you make your profile, this piece right here on the profile edge, from this edge to this edge, is exactly the 10 millimeter dimension, the depth of your groove. So what I do now is for the rails, I already know that I have 502, right? Because my math, it's exactly 502, I'm measuring it, right? So if I did the 482 plus the 20, and then I get 502. Well, you would have to do the same thing here, measure this, and you know, the inside, you'd get 243, and then add 20 to it, because the 10 and the 10 for the groove. Instead, you just take that measurement from this inside edge here to this inside edge, and I have 263. So I know that my panel has to be 263 millimeters by 502 millimeters, except one thing. A lot of people leave this out, and what I do is I subtract 1 or 2 millimeters from that dimension so that the panel slides in there and gives the wood frame a little room to expand and contract during different temperature changes. So if you make it too tight in there, yes, it's going to, the center panel is going to be 1/4 inch MDF. It's not going to expand and contract, so it's not going to bust this door open. But you still want that little bit, even just a millimeter of that room. Slide it in there nice and easy, and then there's no problems with any kind of clamping pressure because something is too tight or a little corner is out of square on your center panel, and then you're bending the panel when you're actually clamping the piece together because it's too large, and then what happens is ultimately you wind up with a warped door or drawer front. You don't want that, so just knock off 1 or 2 millimeters, slide it in there, and because it is a MDF panel, you can actually glue it in with a drop of glue in 1 or 2 of the grooves to hold it in place so that there is no rattling. This is going to be a drawer front, so there's not going to be any rattling because the handle is going to, the pull of the drawer is going to take care of that because that's going to be screwed through and into the drawer box. So that's going to eliminate any movement of that center panel. But on a cabinet door, you may want to put a dab of glue in 2 of the grooves so that it sits there and it doesn't move and it's glued to these frames. And these frames aren't going to move and bust open because of that center panel, because it's not a solid wood center panel.
Now that I have my measurements, I can just run back over to the sliding table saw, cut my panels to the size that I need really quickly, and when I pre-fit them back into the drawer fronts, all I have to do is drop them right into the frame, right on top. I don't even have to take the door apart again. I just drop them in there, and if it fits, then I know I'm good to go. I'll start the glue up. And the glue up process here, you've seen me do it 100 times. I just put glue on all the tongues and in the groove, a little dab in the groove for the center panel, slide everything together. Everything's going to fit nice and tight perfectly. That center panel's not going to stop me from getting any of my joints to close up tightly. And then I like to use parallel clamps here because they create a much more even pressure, and you don't have to really crank down on them. Just a little bit of pressure to get the joints together. Once you get that little bit of squeeze out, that's when you stop putting pressure on the clamps, because that's when, if you go any further, you will warp the door. Here I'm using a cabinet hardware jig, and that's so that I can quickly drill all the holes for the pulls in the same spot on every drawer, because all these drawers are the same size for this window seat, and so it saves a lot of time. Now we're over to the stage of priming. I'm using General Finishes Enduro white undercoat for the primer. It's a really great primer. It sands up really nice, and if you saw my Instagram video, I go over the process really quickly on a short video of sanding. I think I put it on YouTube also as a short, so check that out on my channel as well. For the finish, I'm spraying General Finishes white poly in satin. It sprays amazing, and it sands out just as good as the white undercoat. Okay, so I let the finish cure out. I got 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of the finish. And you can see on the back here, I don't know if I talked about this in my other videos, but when I'm doing drawer fronts like this with a recessed panel, I like to glue on a piece of either hardboard, MDF, or even a piece of plywood. We got about 1/8 of an inch gap there. And then what that does is it allows me to drill right through that panel in the back and right into the drawer box, and it creates a solid connection. If you don't put anything behind the panel and you have that gap there, then what you're going to do is when you tighten up your pull for the drawer front, it's going to suck the panel in and squeeze it against the drawer box because there's nothing there to fill it. Kind of picture putting a cabinet against a wall without a shim, and then when you screw it in, it sucks up to the wall and it gets bent. Now the other remedy for this would be to use a 1/2 inch MDF panel instead of a 1/4 inch, and then what you could do is you could use a rabbiting bit with your router and rabbit all around the panel and then slide it in, and that would take up that gap and it would be flush on the back. The panel would be flush with the frame of the door or drawer front, but that's much more work and it's much more time consuming, so this is a much quicker way. So if you're doing production cabinetry or any kind of production carpentry, then you definitely want to find ways to move as quick as possible, and this is one of the ways to do it. Next thing I'm doing is, what I'll do is I'll screw the drawer fronts on using plastic shims. Those are spaced accordingly to the dimensions that I made the drawer fronts to. I like a 2 millimeter and a 3 millimeter reveal so that I can have nice reveal gaps all around. These are full overlay drawers. They are frameless cabinets as well, so the full overlay looks great on those. And I like a 2mm reveal all the way around, but when I have something at the top, like a countertop or a seat like this, I'll use the 3mm reveal. And then the last step is just to put on these rubber bumpers behind the drawer front, so the soft close not only gives it the air gap it needs, but it also doesn't make a banging noise.
Okay guys, so that's it for the window seat build here. We have all the components on there now. You saw how I did the drawers. All I have to do now is attach the legs and then bring it to the client's house, but I'll attach the legs there at the home. So this way it's easier for me to carry it upstairs and everything. And once I get it in there, I'll pop the legs on, we'll level it up, and then it'll be screwed into the wall that will give it all the extra support besides the legs itself. So you can see we have 3 full extension, soft close, undermount drawer slides. These are really big drawers, more storage. And then on top, the client is gonna get a custom cushion made, probably about 1 inch thick, around the same size as this. And that'll sit right on top of there. This way they can sit on this and put their shoes on, and then they can throw some maybe socks and things like that in these drawers. So this is gonna look real nice under that window. It'll be, for the most part, centered under the window and really close to the size of the casing. I don't know if I explained in the other video that there is going to be an outlet on that side, which is not going to be hidden behind this. So we're moving this over a little bit so that outlet is exposed, but right on the side here where you're not going to see it. So that's going to dictate pretty much exactly where I'll be able to place this. The way I made it, it should be perfectly centered with that window. So I hope you guys enjoyed the way I made the drawers. The shaper that I have with the new power feeder, I think is awesome. It really sped up production for me. Listen, there's still a lot involved in milling up this lumber and making all these things and then passing it through the shaper to make the profiles with the feeder. Really, it doesn't make you any better at doing it. What it does is it gives you more consistent profiles, and it gives you a cleaner cut, and it makes you safer and more efficient. Your hands are nowhere near the cutter anymore. You know, the shapers, they can be very dangerous, as well as a router table, but a shaper is much more dangerous because the blade, they're big carbide blades, cutter heads on there, much bigger than router bits are, and they also spin at a higher RPMs, and they have much more horsepower. So having a power feeder on there and using a coping sled, these are just safety measures, and it gives you a better result as well as keeps you safer. So I hope you guys enjoyed the finish that I did, spraying that and everything. You see how that came out. The installation of the drawer fronts on those drawers, how simple that can be. Usually what I do is I put clamps on it after I screw those 2 pocket hole screws into the front and attach it. I usually put clamps on the back to hold it in, but these drawers are not that big and heavy where I would worry too much about the fronts moving around. And we get a lot more videos to make. I have stuff I need to do in the shop. I have more builds for clients that I have coming up. Then we'll be doing a complete walk around in that closet, and you'll see how that turned out, that walk-in closet. All kinds of stuff coming at you. So really make sure that you guys stay tuned for all those videos. I have a lot of videos that I want to do in the shop on the sliding table saw, tips and tricks on that, things that you need to look out for when you're purchasing sliding table saws, stuff that you need to know that I've already experienced and been through in the last 8 months with this. Also, I have a new job site miter saw. We're going to be building a miter saw wing station for that, set up on the job site. So that's job site ready, and it's much different than what we've had in the past with the Festool setup. You've probably seen in the background of the video the Milwaukee Packout stacks that I have. That's my new job site. Not only is it my job site stack to go in and do my installs and stuff on site with to carry all my tools with me, but I actually love having it in the shop. Since it's on a drawer system, I have all my tools in there all the time, so I know exactly where they are and everything's labeled. So I'm not losing anything anymore. So now I'm just really only keeping stuff in the bench that I don't really need to take with me on job sites. So I'm not really scrambling around looking for tools anymore, which is great. So definitely make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. We got a lot coming up, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for joining me in the shop today, and I will see you next time.